Welcome to Chichester University, Adam. That clip we just saw was from Don't Think, your Chemical Brothers film from 2012. I went to see the launch in Leicester Square, which had Rosamund Pike and Jane Winston. It was very exciting, but somehow the whole cinema seemed to turn into a bit of a rave, really, because it was more than just a concert film, wasn't it? Tell us about how that came together, that project.
We just never filmed the show. You know, we've been doing the show for, I don't know, almost 20 years at that point, and we'd never filmed it. Glastonbury had filmed it, and it was actually one of the managers who said, you know, we've got to capture it, because, you know, maybe it won't happen again, and it's an important thing to capture. And he managed to blag some money off the record company, and I was kind of like, it's not really enough money and it's not going to work. And he was like, let's just do it, let's just make it work. And originally we were going to shoot it at a bull ring in Nîmes. I'm so glad that didn't happen. So we ended up, for one reason or another, I think it was very expensive to shoot in France, whereas Fuji Festival, which is like a kind of Japanese Glastonbury, it's incredible. It's
Fuji Rock.
Fuji Rock, yeah. It's got all the kind of mud of Glastonbury, but at the end of the night, everyone washes their wellies and in the stream, and it's really nice. And that was the brilliant thing, is we had notices on the cameras where we said, you know, please don't look into the lens and just ignore us. We had it all in Japanese of the shots of the people, and they actually did that, you know, whereas if it was in England, it would be all like, hello mum, fuck off, get that camera out my face, or whatever, you know. So it was lovely to film it there. And
anyone who hasn't seen it should do, because there's whole sequences in the crowd that are people sort of interacting, so it gives you more of a feel than just the stage. You get the whole feel for the festival, don't you?
You do, yeah, and that was the aim, was to get what it feels like to actually be at a Chemical Brothers concert, you know, and thinking of ways to achieve that, because, you know, it's great, all that kind of, actually I'm lying, I don't think it is that great, the way that they shoot, you know, they would shoot Glastonbury of like a sweeping crane shot, and it's this camera here and this camera here, and it's always the same setup, and it's like, that's not what it feels like when you're at a gig. When you're at a gig, you can't quite see, because there's somebody taller than you, usually me. In front of us, and there's hands, and there's movement, and you're next to someone, and you're feeling things, and it's in, you know, and someone next to you's just been sick or whatever. You know, it's kind of got there's an energy to it that I don't feel gets captured enough in live footage. So I really wanted to capture what it feels like. So I kind of employed techniques that I guess I'd learned through doing drama stuff, of like, well, how do you connect? How do you emotionally connect to what you're seeing? If you're watching a film, how do you emotionally connect with it? And it's, you know, cinema's oldest trick, you know, like you see you, and then you see what you're seeing, and then you see back to see how you react to that, and you go, oh, I know him a little bit, you know. And it was employing that technique, you know. So we had one character that features a lot in the trailer, who's never acted before. She was actually but she's a massive Chemical Brothers fan. She's actually the girlfriend of one of our editors, and I was like, well, maybe we just get Mario to do it. And that was a bit nerve-wracking, because the first thing we shot with her, which was actually the night before, we sort of mounted this camera to her, and she got really nervous, and I was like, oh no, this isn't going to work at all, you know. And then I got her a couple of drinks, and
she loosened up.
All good. Yeah, she was brilliant.
I mean, you've had some. I mean, to put this in perspective, you've been. Your sort of background, going back to sort of when you first started working with the Chemical Brothers, that was in the 1990s, and a very different time, when they were a sort of niche dance music act rather than a sort of festival headlining, you know, Glastonbury, Mount Fuji, or, you know, these massive festivals. So your involvement with them has been a very long time, and you kind of, was the name of the company Vegetable Vision that you had?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was
engaged with the Chemical Brothers. So tell us about how you started to work with them.
We had this company called, it's kind of more of a collective, called Vegetable Vision, which I once had to explain to a German promoter was like a state of mind, not a plate of food, when he was trying to give us a load of vegetarian food. We started off, how did we meet them? You know, the kind of whole acid house thing started, and we used to go raving, and we'd sort of see these visuals, and me and a few friends were kind of making odd little films and taking photographs and stuff, and I guess we went, well, we could do this, and we could do something different, and And one of the guys I was working with, his dad used to run an AV company in the 70s. It had gone bust, so he didn't have any of the projectors left, but he kind of had a vague knowledge of that. And the other guy, Marcus, who I still have come back to working with years later, and I still work with now on the shows, his dad had a whole slide collection of stained glass windows, you know. So we sort of merged all this stuff, and someone was putting on a rave, and we were like, well, we'll do the visuals. So I, you know, borrowed, in inverted commas, a couple of projectors from London College of Printing, where I was studying at the time. I was doing a film and video degree, and we used slide projectors and film projectors, and we shot on 16mm and we photographed on 35mm stills. So it was very much analogue. But then Marcus was at St Martin's at the time, and they had this strange computer called the Pluto system, which was used for textiles. But we worked out a way of putting moving image into that, and we'd colour it up, and it would kind of look a bit like Solarized, like Terminator kind of thing. And then we'd film that back on 16mm and then show it on. I mean, why we did this, but you know, you're young and experimenting.
Created new effects.
Yeah, and it did, and it looked very different to what everyone else was doing. And then we met Tom and Ed through.
Who are the Chemical Brothers?
Oh yeah, through who they were called the Dust Brothers then, and they were kind of DJing. And they weren't the sort of big, you know, at that point it was more kind of the superstar DJs, if you like, was like Sasha and kind of Weatherall and, you know.
Jeremy Healy.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that was quite a while after the initial acid house thing, and it had gone quite. It was beginning to go more mainstream, and so Tom and Ed were doing this Dust Brothers were doing this really interesting backroom where they were playing kind of B-sides of hip-hop records and then throwing in a Northern Soul record, but then a bit of acid house, and you know, they were doing this real sort of collage of music that was.
And you got involved with that?
We were going to the same clubs as them, and we kind of knew people who knew people. We got to know them, and they put out a few records just on Boys Own, and then they got asked to do a live show at Andy Weatherall's club, which was Sabersonic, and they were like, oh, I don't know if we should be doing this. We're sort of backroom boys, we're not really
a live act.
Yeah. And so they did a 20-minute set, and we, you know, we did the visuals for them.
So you were there for the very first show?
Yeah, it was yeah. And at that point they were very unsure, and there was a lot of a kind of backlash, which is quite weird now thinking about it, of the whole way that dance music and EDM and all this thing's so big, because it was a little bit like, what? A couple of blokes fiddling with their knobs on stage, you know? What's going on? You know, I mean, yeah.
This is the future.
Technical knobs.
Now what?
Hasten to add.
This is where you began, and I'd like to leap forward, and I'd like to show a clip of the opening episode of Doctor Who, the 11th Hour.
Can I have an apple? All I can think about. Apples. I love apples. Maybe I'm having a craving. That's new, never had cravings before. Whoa! Look at that.
Are you okay?
Just had a fall. All the way down there, right to the library. Hell of a climb back up.
You're soaking wet.
I was in the swimming pool.
You said you're in the library.
So was the swimming pool.
Are you a policeman?
Why? Did you call a policeman?
Did you come about the crack of my wall?
What crack?
You alright, mister?
No, I'm fine. It's okay. This is all perfectly normal.
Who are you?
I don't know yet. I'm still cooking. Does it scare you?
No, it just looks a bit weird.
No. The crack in your wall, does it scare you?
Yes.
Well then, no time to lose. I'm the doctor. Do everything I tell you, don't ask stupid questions, and don't wander off.
You alright?
Early days. steering's a bit off.
Now that's the opening episode of Matt Smith's Doctor Who, and obviously Doctor Who is the BBC's leading franchises. How did you end up in charge of such a thing as that?
I was actually saying this to someone the other day when I'd spent 2 weeks pitching on a commercial that I didn't get, that wasn't even a particularly big budget. I actually got that job on the basis of reading the scripts once and just going in for one meeting and saying, we just need to be true to the story, and we need to make this more cinematic, and we need to make the performances more natural, and we need to play the humanity of it rather than this is the end of the world, you know, that kind of more of the era before, and got the job. But I mean, I'd done 2 episodes of a series called Skins, and then I'd also done some episodes of a Dickens adaptation, BBC.
Little Dorrit,
yes. And so Piers, who was the executive producer, he's now head of drama actually at the BBC, but he was so inspirational on that because he got Matt Smith to write me letters. Like, he was really like, we really want you to do this, you know, because I wasn't a Doctor Who fan, you know. I kind of like, when I was little, I used to like do you remember the title? Probably you lot don't, but you might remember the title sequence. The title sequence when the Tom Baker era, you know, my brother used to tell me it was a whale. I don't think it was.
A whale?
Yeah, that it was travelling through a whale's insides.
Very
you know, remember that kind of...
Yes, I do, yeah.
And I used to like that bit, but I didn't really like Doctor Who, so I kind of felt a bit guilty about it. But actually, the first episode was this beautiful story about kind of almost like a Father Christmas fairy tale. But yeah, this guy Piers really kind of pushed for me to do it, and I'm really grateful that he did. And he was really, you know, he was the thing that everyone kind of credited Stephen Moffat with the sort of reinvention of that. And of course, Stephen Moffat's scripts were brilliant. You know, he's an amazing writer, but actually Stephen Moffat and the BBC at that time wanted to get James Nesbitt to play Doctor Who, and it was Piers that was pushing, like, no, we need to have someone new. He wanted Lily Allen to play the assistant. You know, it was like, he was really sort of he wanted me to come and do it because he loved my music videos, not particularly because of Little Dorrit or anything else, you know, but he loved the Chemical Brothers live show, and you know, and I did another couple of episodes and actually got Mike Skinner in the beginning of one of the episodes as well.
From the Streets, the singer from the Streets. So you, with that though, you had, I mean, Karen Gillan you were directing as well, who's gone on to mighty things in Hollywood. She's Nebula in the Guardians of the Galaxy series, and has transformed it. And wasn't the little girl there, who is a young version of Amy Pond, the character she plays, isn't that Karen Gillan's cousin Caitlin? It
is, yeah. We're doing these castings, and it's really hard with kids, with casting kids. Is like, you kind of either have a choice of, you either go down the stage schooly route, which usually means you're going to get a kind of slightly mannered performance, but they're going to do what they're told, you know. Or you go down someone's never acted before, and either it's a fucking disaster, or you get something that's really truthful and someone that's able that gets the concept of playing, you know, and that this is a game and you play it. But so we weren't finding the person, because it was also quite specific. It needs to be, you know, a particular part of Scotland, and it needs to be someone with red hair. You know, that was quite specific, and she needs to be able to act. So I was just like, yeah, Karen, have you got any family? And she'd never met this cousin before. Right. Or she'd met her once, you know, and she was like, I've got a cousin. And I was like, oh, let's call her. So she came down to Cardiff where we filmed Doctor Who, and I said, I want Matt to be at the casting, you know, because it's important, if this works, it's important that their relationship. And I said to Matt, I said, I just want you to, I mean, he's very charming and engaging anyway as a person, but I said, I want you to just be at your most magical. I want you to wow her like she thinks you're the most amazing thing that's ever happened in her life. And she kind of reacted, and we just kept on. That was the but also a little bit, you know, he was a little bit silly, so she kind of was, it was just, you know, I think directors get lauded for, oh, you know, you got such a great performance out of those kids, like, you just got a really good casting person, you've also got great actors that are willing to play, you know, and woney actors sometimes say, oh, it's a total pain in the arse to film with them, and then they'll nick the scene off you, you know. And, you know, it is often the case, but the actors that actually really get deep down and, you know, get into it with the kids and engage with them, that's when you get great performances from the kids. It's the same as any acting, really. You know, it's always easier when you've got something to react to. You know, you're going to get a better.
Well, so you worked that up with Matt, and it worked really well. And you went on and you did more. You did more. I mean, you did one of the Doctor Who's, the modern Doctor Who's great baddies is the Weeping Angels, and you did an episode with them as well, didn't you? Because that's kind of a responsibility as well, isn't it? Dealing with a sort of iconic baddie.
Yeah. I'm not sure if we got it. That first episode, which features those monsters, is one of the few of the Doctor Who's that I watched as a reference because it was really good, and I'm not sure if ours was as good as theirs actually. Kerry Mulligan was in it.
Was she? I've forgotten that. Right.
Yeah, it was called Blink because we had a nightmare filming that. We were doing nights, and we had this forest, and it rained, and people were like twisting ankles, doing their leg, you know. I remember one night, because, you know, when you're doing night shoots, you have a lunch, even though it's the middle of the night, they call it lunch. And so we had lunch, and I was just so exhausted and devastated by the whole, because we were going over schedule and going over budget, and the BBC were kind of freaking out because we shot those. Piers had the brilliant idea of shooting those episodes 4 and 5 first, and then doing episode 1.
Right.
So really getting Karen and Matt into it, and that was part of the deal of taking it on, you know, was to do those two.
So they'd be gelled by then.
Yeah, exactly, and they'd know who those characters were. But I do remember just going, I can't handle this, I can't go back to this. And I started walking, and it was pitch black in the middle of Wales, and I was like, I'm going to just walk all the way to London and not look back. I don't care what happens. I can't deal with this anymore. You know, I really remember
walking out. Literally.
Yeah, I'm just going. You know what I mean?
I'm out of here.
Yeah, I can't handle this. And that's where, if there's any sort of directors in the audience, you know, it's like, get yourself a producer that's just going to just protect you. Because
got your back.
Yeah, he just created this space whereby, you know, because we had this old Welsh crew that we eventually won over, but they'd been working, when David was here, you know, like he used to, you know, Matt was just learning TV acting, you know, so hitting marks and stuff was tough for him, and I wasn't going to push him too much because you know what I mean, and I was kind of...
Wanted the emotion.
Yeah, I wanted it to be real, and I wanted it to be truthful, and so Piers created this space for us to really, he protected us from all the pressures of the BBC, the pressures of this crew, the pressure of going over budget, over schedule, and that meant I could protect Matt and Karen, and it's really, so I'll never forget that, you know.
The filming environment you need to have that kind of bubble of protection, which a producer will provide.
And also someone that will pull you up and go, do you know what, you are taking too, you know, but do
taking
it
too long, you're going over budget.
Yeah.
I mean, with Doctor Who, one of the things that's interesting is kind of Doctor Who and Little Dorrit, because previous to that, a lot of your work could be sort of loosely related to the counterculture, to the underground, to alternative, including Skins really, to alternative sort of perspectives. With Doctor Who and Little Dorrit, did you feel you were making a leap into another kind of filming world, or just did you regard it as a continuation?
After I did Skins, I got offered loads of teenage stuff, and I was like, I don't want to be just doing it. And then Little Dorrit came along, and I've kind of always loved Dickens, and it kind of spoke to me. I don't know how conscious.
It's a much tighter. I mean, the filming on those, but on Little Dorrit, for instance, is, you know, you can't have that sort of indulgent madness, kind of psychedelia, and the sort of the multi-cutting.
No,
things.
although I was very jealous of the last director who did the last block on Little Dorrit. Got to do a sequence where old Dorrit's losing it, and there is a psychedelic sequence. And I was like, I should have done that.
Want that one.
But I guess, you know, I did want to push myself and see if I could tell stories in that way, and
in a more traditional narrative.
Because I haven't done, you know, short film, television drama, film, or whatever. You know, that hasn't been my path, and I think that kind of brings a different sensibility, you know.
It does. I mean,
I don't know, you know, but
I'm going to rewind the clock a bit to 2004. A key work of yours, really. I mean, you worked a lot with The Streets. You did quite a few videos for them. He's clearly a good friend of yours, Mike Skinner, who is The Streets.
He's really impressive. I think a round of applause for Thomas. You've really done your work. This is really like, usually you come to these things and people are like, oh, yeah. And now, I'm really, you know, sorry.
Well, that's
quite overwhelmed.
Because in 2004 you did a lot of videos for Mike Skinner in The Streets, but Blinded by the Lights is it was a groundbreaking one. It was banned, and well, let's talk about it afterwards. So enjoy this. This is quite a thing. This is Blinded by the Lights by The Streets.
But you're going to meet them, right? Seriously. Where are we going to meet them? Oh, fucking phones.
That's the one. Oi. How did he not find a baggie with his hand in my shoe? Way too close for me. Oh well, at least they allowed me through. Should be a good night in here. Ramo in the main room. People keep pushing me though. No reception on the phone. And I'm thinking,
lights are blinding my eyes.
They said they'd be here, they said. They said in the corner. And I'm thinking,
people pushing by. Then walking off into the night.
These look well speckled, a bit green and blue. Three's is well cheap though, so I'll take 3 if I need to. Right, I'm on the plan. I wish the bouncers would go away. Borrow water off this man, here goes nothing, okay. And I'm thinking,
lights are blinding my eyes.
Oh, that's proper rain. That tastes like hairspray. And I'm thinking,
people pushing by. Then walking off into the night.
I hate coming to the entrance just to get bars on my phone. You have no new messages, so why haven't they phoned? Menu write message, so where are you and Simone? Send message Dan's number, where have they gone? And I'm thinking,
lights are blinding my eyes.
Why's the message pending? Where the fuck are you? And I'm thinking,
people pushing by. Then walking off into the night.
Brandy or beer, water's a good idea. I wish that bar lady would appear and come serve over here. Where the fuck could they be? Still not over in the corner. This night's a tragedy. I keep thinking I saw her. And I'm thinking,
lights are blinding my eyes.
No, that's not them. That's not them either. And I'm thinking,
people pushing by. Then walking off into the night.
I'm still not feeling anything. This has got to be a dud. It's been ages since I necked it. I smoked 6 tabs to the knob. Belly's not even tingling. I just feel a bit pissed. No one looks like mingling. I can't see her or him. And I'm thinking,
lights are blinding my eyes.
I'm gonna do another, I think. Yeah, one more, these are shit. And I'm thinking,
people pushing by. Then walking off into the night.
These toilets are a piss tape. Queues bigger than the door. Gotta get rid of this pill taste. What are they chatting so much for? Glad I'm not a girl in this place. They'll be here till dawn. Sure my belly's tingling a bit. Something's happening, I'm sure. And I'm thinking,
lights are blinding my eyes.
Maybe I shouldn't have done the second one. I feel all fidgety and warm.
People pushing by. Then walking off into the night.
Everything in the room's spinning. I think I'm gonna fall down. My heart's beating too quick. I'm fucking tripping out. I wonder whether they got in. Turned away, no doubt. Who cares? This is a tune coming in. That one noise is like, I'm thinking,
lights are blinding my eyes.
My eyes are rolling back. I'm rubbing my thighs with my hand. And I'm thinking,
people pushing by. Then walking off into the night.
Yeah, they cheer. Can they see my hand in the air? Need to wave them over here. I swear Simone's kissing Dan. My head's twisted severe. Body's rushing everywhere. They could have texted me when they were near, but I'm fucked and I don't care.
Lights are blinding my eyes.
What was I thinking about? Oh, who cares?
People pushing by.
totally fucking...
then walking off into
I can't
the
even
night.
stand. This is fucking amazing.
It's just like my last wedding, that one. Yeah. No, that's a jolly tale. You watch that and it's full of drugs, and it's almost like the flip side of Don't Think, isn't it? It's the dark side of the rave dream almost. It's depressing, this sort of everyday use of it. I mean, was it the concept of it, was that you or you and Mike, or how did that come together?
It's interesting you say that, because actually most of the people watching Don't Think, what was fascinating about it is that they weren't off their heads.
Right.
They were genuinely like enjoying that show, you know, which was a great feeling for me. You know, it's like actually the music and the visuals and the lights can create this psychedelic experience without the need for, no, you know, there might have been some people, but not really.
It's not the way of it in Japan.
Yeah, it's not really a big,
yeah.
you know, but interesting also the response to my dad after seeing Blinding Lights say, so yes, very interesting. It's a sort of anti-drug polemic, you know. And then the commissioner, who's this mad Northern Irish bloke, went, it's fucking great, isn't it, Adam? It just makes you want to go out there and fucking have it. It's like, really? So, you know, it had and
have a good fight.
Yeah. It certainly resonates with me. It's one, I think I was saying to you earlier, it's one of the few things I can watch and not cringe about as much as I watch other things that I've done and go, I should have done. You know, that's kind of, dare I say it, pleased with that.
You're allowed to be.
Yeah, not in a kind of arrogant way, just like that actually, it's very personal and kind of I've been every one of those characters, and Charlie, who plays the other character to Mike, the actor called Charlie Creed Miles, is sort of, or you know, was a very, very close, still is a friend, but was a very, very close friend, and that was, yeah, that was exactly as you say, the experience of just not even meaning to take drugs and ending up just off your nut and taking more, you know, and it not even being good, you know, and that's kind of in a way where, for me, where rave culture got to, my personal story, yeah. You know, it became pretty depressing, you know, But in terms of where did the idea come from, I'd done some visuals for Mike Skinner, and I'd met him, and he was just about to go out on tour. His album wasn't quite out at that point, and he'd seen the Chemical Brothers, and his manager had put us in touch and had this meeting, and he was like, I really love the visuals for the Chemical Brothers. I want you to do my visuals, but I don't want it anything like the Chemical Brothers. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You know, this is bold, this kid, you know, he's good, that's good, good. So we filmed, you know, there was this thing, loads of kids on mopeds in kind of Prada trainers. I had this idea that it was the next Mods and everything, but it wasn't. But it was, so we filmed them and doing mad wheelies and we filmed these more sort of naturalistic, realist, social realist, for want of a better description, pieces. And I'd only done a couple of videos at that point, and not very big budget. And he, just before this, he'd had a big hit with Dry Your Eyes.
Right.
So he was, you know, he was kind of the darling of the record company.
It was the ballad one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
And he said, I want Adam Smith to do this. And they were like, right, he's not done big videos, you know, we can't really. He was like, no, I want him to do it. And you're not using your video commissioner, you're using the mad Northern Irish guy that I was telling you about before. And they had to go along with it, you know. Well, they didn't have to, but they thought...
He had a bit of power at that point.
He had a bit of power, yeah. And I always remember, you know, those people that have believed in you, that have given you that opportunity, like the guy that got skin, you know, like Pierre, you know, I always think it's important to remember there are those people out there that kind of that help you and believe in you when you don't necessarily even believe in yourself. You know, it's
people who give you a break.
Yeah,
right,
and believe, and so he sort of said, yeah, I want him to do it. And then, so I was like, okay, great. You know, I love the song, and you know, sort of thinking, right, we're going to go and have a chat about it being in a club and playing out the narrative that plays in the song. He said, okay, right, 2 things with this. Don't want it to be in a club, done a club video, and have a look at this scene in Witness. And there was a scene in the toilet where they almost catch him and they don't catch him. And I was like, right, okay, so you don't want it to be in a club, but the whole fucking song's about a club, and you don't...
And you want it to be like a small scene in Witness.
In Witness, like, oh man. And then I just went away and listened to it, and just put in a lot of personal experiences and tried to make it like still. I was like, what other things become nightclubs that aren't? And actually, I tell you the truth. You know what? The mad Northern. He's called John Hassey. He's amazing. This Northern Irish guy, commissioner. He sort of really helped people's people like Dougal Wilson. I don't know if you know Dougal Wilson, a director, brilliant music videos, and now does a lot of commercials. But all the John Lewis ones every Christmas, those sweet ones. But John used to support us, and John showed me this Will Young video that Godley and Cream, or the geezer from whichever one does videos these days, had done, and it was a fight at a. I'm revealing too much here. It was a fight at a art gallery, and John said, I commissioned this. The original idea was it was going to be at a wedding. I was like, oh, cool, I love that. And
Purloined that.
I was about to sort of claim, that it had
ideas
come from my
all over the
imagination.
place.
And then I'd had this experience of DJing. I used to just play reggae sevens, DJing in Brighton, in fact, and it's a friend of mine that was a bit of a quite a character, and he'd got us down there to DJ at this girl's 21st, and it was that kind of quite white Brighton crowd.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, and we were playing reggae, and they didn't like reggae, and it was just like, oh God, this is like really. And we were me and my friend trying to sort of get out. So I was like, no, keep playing, fuck them, keep playing. And the girl's dad was he was a sort of Peter Stringfellow character. Again, you might not know the reference, but Peter Stringfellow, kind of man that's too old to have a ponytail but has a ponytail. Actually, I'm getting close myself. But he had this white shirt down to his knees, and at one point, so we were playing, some lovely sort of, Marcia Griffith, Feel Like Jumping or something. It's all nice, and then suddenly Simon, this friend that had booked us for this thing, I don't know quite why, but he headbutted the dad. So this white shirt became this mass of blood,
dear.
and then he went, who's next? And then just this kind of Wild West fight broke out, and we literally took the records off and made our way out of, But anyway, so that was part
fed into it.
Yeah, that fed into it. But it is about being the character that's cheated, being on his mate's girlfriend, being the character whose mate has cheated on his girlfriend, being the person encouraging the person to do more, being the person who's being encouraged. It was weird. I haven't seen it for a while. It was quite emotional watching it actually, because it is personal, and hopefully that's why it connects.
It's gritty.
Because the more personal and the more of yourself, I think, that you can reveal in your work. However that is, however you connect to it, all the scenes in Little Dorrit that work are the ones where I felt a really personal connection, even though I've not experienced those exact things, that
you could relate to them.
Yeah, and I think you have to find that the mistakes I've made when doing drama is certain scenes that I don't like that scene that much, and you have to force yourself to personally connect to those scenes and understand them. Otherwise, they're never gonna
hit home.
They're never gonna work.
Your work. You've worked. Charlie Creed Miles. He's great in. Is it called Wild Bill? That film, and it's a brilliant film. And that one, 2011. And you've worked with him.
Nil by Mouth as well.
Nil by Mouth, yeah. And you made, which we unfortunately don't have time to look at, but I'd recommend you. There's a comic music video called What Goes Up Must Come Down, which you made with him years ago. But I'm going to leap forward instead to a film you made for Jaguar. We're going to watch a trailer for a film you made for Jaguar. And I want to ask you about you know, how as a filmmaker you make this leap to this sort of rather exotic. Damian Lewis is in it, and well, let's look at a clip.
Deliver this car to Ernesto Augustin Martinez.
Are you crazy? He's gonna kill us.
Melody!
You better get out of the way or you're dead. Drive.
Run away with this Prince Harry? Sidney Clark, delivering your new car. Liar! You are a liar! Oh, you go on too. Have to hell with it. I don't like this job anyway.
Why does it always have to be about you? Sorry I dragged you into this.
That's a good car.
Who are you?
Like I said, I do deliveries.
That's the real story.
You, Ridley Scott, Lana Del Rey's involved, Damian Lewis is in it. Jaguar have got a few quid to blow then, and they've asked you in to create a 13-minute piece in 2013. How on earth does this come about?
Well, I'm represented by RSA, which is Ridley's company, although
Right.
he's pretty hands-off, but everyone exploits his name. To the they're not exploits his name. He's not.
It adds kudos to it, yes.
He's making films back to back. I mean, extraordinary man. He does not stop making films. I did have a meeting with him a couple of years ago, and he was asking me about. So I made this film Trespass with Michael Fassbender.
Which we'll come to in a moment.
And he said, he said, what's Michael doing? I said, I think he's gone straight on to another job. You know what he's like. Doesn't stop working. And he went, well, he bloody should stop working. I went, well, you can talk. He went, well, I'm going to die soon, so no, I can't stop working. So I'm represented by them. So this was a hand-me-down, really. Rowan Joffe was developing this idea with a really interesting ad agency, actually, Brooklyn Brothers, who were trying to do this sort of like, let's do this sort of Coen Brothers esque short film about the car, but the aim is to sell the product. But they were kind of like, and I find this a lot with commercials. Not that I've done that many, but I've pitched on quite a few because the money's really nice and tempting and allows you to have some time to do your own stuff, and it's fun to shoot stuff as well and go to the desert. And
where was that?
The Atacama Desert in Chile. It was
it
amazing.
Oh,
yeah,
it was America, amazing.
It was so lovely to go there. Although it was a bit, he's got sensitive skin, Damien, so it's a bit tricky. But brollies, that was the answer. But no, so we tried to get a script together, and there wasn't enough time, really. To get a good script together takes a lot of time. And they were saying they wanted something really weird and really out there, and then all the bits that were a bit weird and out there were suddenly like, oh no, actually take it back. So it ended up being something that was neither, like if you wanted a sort of slick corporate piece, we should have done that.
Right.
And if you wanted a weird out there piece, then we should have done that. And in the middle lies, no one's happy. Were
you not happy with the end result?
The trailer kind of, it was what I...
The trailer's got the best bits in, hasn't it?
The trailer I think is, is okay. And it was really nice because I was about to make Trespass.
Yeah.
And I hadn't shot cars a lot before, Well,
let's watch a clip of that and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Here's the truth. You pass it down from father to son, from father, son, grandson.
That's it, boy!
Me, I've never been arrested.
Bloody have, Chad, 3 times.
I've never been charged.
Darling,
Tens each.
please listen and understand this song.
Ain't you got homeworks?
You never had to do homework.
I never went to school.
Yeah, look, you know it. Your dad's a legend, Tyson.
You did say we weren't living with your dad forever, Chad.
Got potentials.
Thing is, Chad, we can't be having your old man and his old lot pitching up. We're a shell community. No troubles, and I want to keep it that way.
That's all I want too.
Got a job for you tonight, all right?
Can't live like this no more. Can't do it. I've had enough.
It's all right, Cal. We're all getting over here now.
It's going to start raining down on all of us. And they will break you on your own, you know that. But not if we stay tight.
Do what they say, kids.
This is your fault, you know that?
I love you so much.
I'm getting away from you, Cole.
You forgetting who you are, boy?
I'm just trying to look after my family.
I'm your family.
It's a film about a sort of criminal family who are in the travelling community. Now, you made this with the writer Alistair Siddons, who also co-produced it. Was it from him or you, this kind of the idea of doing a film about the traveller community in that way?
Well, it's not really about it's about one particular family, really. It's not reflective of the traveller community as a whole, but which sounds like a sort of glib press sort of answer, but it's not. It was about a particular. Alistair worked on a documentary called A Summer with the Johnsons,
right?
And I was actually supposed to direct that thing, but I just directed a thing called Ghetto on Sea, which is about pirate radio station, which has since been homaged in the form of People Do Nothing. And
People Just Do Nothing,
That was all based on this documentary that I want to get the BBC Three to show it, just to show people where they got those ideas from, because they even used to say... Anyway, let's get that resentment out of the way, let's move on. So I just spent a year kind of doing observational documentary. So he showed me this footage of this family that he'd befriended, this kind of terrifying group of outlaws, really, but also absolutely engaging and amazing, and had this real sense of kind of just lived this life that was totally outside of society, and outside of any sort of rules or and I was just said, well, let's just get the stories and write it down, and we'll make a film about it one day. And that was 10, 12 years ago, and he did. He kept friends with them, and we used to go up there and stay with them, and they'd give us stories, and they'd give us a caravan to stay in, and they'd go out at night. They basically go out at night robbing. And at that point it was, which I think they all got nicked for, was that it was titanium ad. That's the future. If you want to know what a car chase is like, you come out with us, ad. It was like, well, yeah, it's tempting actually, but so we used to stay with the women at night and the dogs. And I remember staying in this caravan one night. They'd kindly given us this caravan to stay in, and I needed a wee in the middle of the night. So the dogs are like fighting dogs, like really fucking scary dogs. But in the day they're fine, because you're with the family, But when the men were out at night, it's a very patriarchal sort of male society, And so I opened the door of this caravan, and this flipping, it was those Japanese, I can't remember the name of them, but they kind of look furry and kind of not, but they're fighting dogs, And it just went for me, and I slammed the door like that, and ended up having to have a wee out the window. But yeah, so we went up and we got all these incredible stories from them, and Alistair wrote this amazing script, and he was going to direct it at one point, and then I don't think they were going to give him the money to do that, so he asked me to direct it, and yeah.
I had no idea that you'd kind of lived the film, really, lived some elements.
He did.
I
I dipped dip my toe in.
You've got a spectacular. I mean, the person I couldn't remember was Rory Kinnear. He's in it.
Yeah,
he plays the policeman in it.
He's brilliant in it.
You've got a spectacular cast in the film, and one of the things that particularly impressed me about it was the car chases. They're so visceral. Were you pleased with them?
I think that was I think some of them, one always feels you can do it better, but yeah, they seem to work, some of them.
How did you do it? Because those are in they're daylight car chases in sort of modern, urban, sort of very rundown environments. And how on earth did you get that together?
Bullying the location manager for quite a long time. Like, no, that's not good enough. No. And eventually finding somewhere that was really good that we could film at, and just a lot of sort of studying. I went through a lot of car chases and ended up concluding that my favourite ones, the ones where you really felt like you were kind of in it, were the more 70s thing. Like there's a great film called The Driver.
Yeah, Bruce Dern.
And films like that where it was kind of car mounts, it was kind of being inside the car, it was low onto the ground, it wasn't flashy Russian arm, Fast and the Furious, super quick cuts. It was trying to hold a bit longer on a take, and I spent probably far too long actually storyboarding in the prep. I with hindsight, the balance of my prep wasn't...
Was the car chase?
Because the script was so good that I kind of thought that's done, and actually it wasn't as done as, because sometimes scripts can be deceptive if they read really well, but you've got to kind of keep taking them apart and keep jumping forward to the edit and keep imagining it and keep adding and keep making it it's a visual, in a way a script is a sort of it's a I don't know how to describe, but you need to take it somewhere else. And I felt actually with hindsight, I learnt so much on this film, and this is what I wanted to do from when I was like 14, 15, I wanted to make films, but then I got waylaid into this kind of, through Acid House and everything else, into making visuals, and finally got to make a film, and it was actually the hardest and most painful working experience I've ever had. It was really, really, really tough, and I know people say that, and I used to sort of think when people said that, oh God, yeah, moan, you're fucking directing a movie, but I just spoke to a friend recently, a great photographer and director called Tom Beard, who's just made his first film, and actually just had a text exchange because I'd heard he'd finished, and I just said, "Are you okay?" And he went, "No," and I was saying we should start Directors Anonymous. Do you know what I mean? My name's Adam. I'm a director. I'm a director as well. It's hard, isn't it? And because you're broken at the end, and it's really. For all sorts of reasons, but I learned so much.
Learned a lot on it.
Yeah.
A lot on it. I'd be in dereliction of my duty. I'm going to have to ask you one tabloid-style question, because I've been dereliction of my duty to the audience. Michael Fassbender. What was he like working with Michael Fassbender?
What was it like working with Michael Fassbender? Well, he's really amazing in the film, and he really worked hard on the accent. He's expected a lot from everyone. Right. Because he expects a lot from himself.
It's very serious. He gets completely the character, and it's very serious.
And this was a film about I didn't really realise it till later on, but it's kind of about macho, dysfunctional men, you know, and arguably played by two macho, dysfunctional men, or actors always, and directors in a way, you kind of get into the worlds that you are telling the story about, especially actors. You kind of find that there's always on set, whether you're doing Little Dorrit or Doctor, the dynamic and the kind of structure ends up being a bit like the characters in the film, it just does. Not in a kind of methody way, but just it does. So I'm not saying they're macho or dysfunctional
men. Yeah, we'll get that clear.
But yeah, it was challenging. It was really challenging, and I guess I was the authority figure in some way, and it's a very anti-authority you know, and I guess in a way with hindsight as well, and I suppose I'm getting a bit personal here, but like when we first started talking about that film and when I was first really excited about the film, I was far more into that wilder match, you know, and sort of wanted to be that. And I guess I've got to a point where I kind of know a little bit more who I am.
You don't find those people as attractive?
Yeah. I still find it fascinating and interesting. Yeah. And actually, what I was looking for in the story was the tenderness and the hope and the love and the, you know, and yeah, it proved challenging with Michael. It was definitely, you know, it was. Yeah, I just learnt so much. You know what I mean? I just learnt so much, and the way I'd respond to certain things that he did now would be very different. Yeah, because he's just like, you realise that someone's maybe someone's attack or aggression isn't personal. It's all about them. Do you know what I mean? And that angers the voice of fear. Do you know that's the fact that I've come to realise. I think, you know, Tom did the music for the film as well.
Tom did?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Okay, and we're going to have a little clip which shows you talking about a project you're working on. So yeah, let's run this clip of Adam talking about Galvanise, his project.
There's one piece that we've done with an amazing dancer called A.I.P. Khan. It's a reinvention of the song Galvanise. He is kind of fighting against this imaginary wall. We've made a wall out of these Sharpie lights. So it's just beams of light are his kind of cage. And eventually he knocks this cage down. We worked in a motion capture studio, and then we took that footage and we manipulated it and worked with a 3D company to make him into this kind of abstractive figure.
Perhaps you'd like to talk about what that project is and tell us what other things you have in the pipeline at the same time.
So yeah, that's one of the pieces that we made for the last Chemical Brothers show, and what I'm really interested in with the live show is the way that lights, and especially moving lights and visuals, can interact, and how, you know, you see in that clip that he pushes how you're kind of creating this three-dimensional effect with physical lights and visuals, and I'm really excited by that and how that interacts, because it feels like something that not that many people do, and it feels, I don't know, I'm really kind of passionate about it, and something I really want to push even more when the Chemicals go out again next year. And it's brilliant with the Chemical Brothers because they trust myself and Marcus, who I work with, to sort of push these sort of ideas, and they give us the time and the budget to do that, because there's a lot more programming time than normally bands would normally allow, because it's all quite intricate. You're basically animating lights. Because we shot that in motion capture, it meant that we could take it straight into VR. So we had a look at it in VR, and it's the VR when you can actually move around, and it's just amazing to be in there with A.I.P. Khan, who's like one of the world's greatest dancers, you know, and we made him 12 foot tall. So when he goes like that, you kind of leap back, you know, and it's like, you never get that close to a dancer unless you're a dancer. And so I thought that, because I'm not, you know, the VR thing's a whole nother conversation, but I just found that as a really exciting way of doing it. And then we're going to build, you know, we're going to make this VR piece where we build those light beams, but they'll change, and so you'll be in. I like that idea of being inside the world of the Chemical Brothers visuals. It's great, you know, it's wonderful. I'm so grateful for getting to the creative freedom I get with the Chemical Brothers. But it's, you know, there's the audience, and here's the Chemical Brothers, and you're looking at it, and I want to be in there. I love things like Punch Drunk, and I don't know if anyone's Yumi Bum Bum Train. It's not a proposition. There really is a thing called Yumi Bum Bum Train, and things like Furze Bruta and Della Guardia, and the sort of, I want to take people in. I want to make a show where people are in the show, where visuals, lights, dancers, visuals coming to life, and that you travel through it. You're not sitting and watching something.
Actually in it.
You're in it, yeah. And use all the sort of different things that I've done in my life, whether it's, you know, visuals for raves in the old days, or whether it's making films or directing more sort of theatrical stuff, bring all those things together, make it like the same feeling you used to get when you went to a like early acid house rave or on a ghost. I used to love ghost trains when I was little. You know, it's that same
experiential,
yeah. And that's something I'm working on, as well as film projects and TV projects, and
you've got a number of things in the pipeline.
Selling my soul through commercials, and you know.
And that provides you the thinking space. Now we will wrap it up now, and I'd like to say a big thank you again to Adam. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and quite revelatory and very funny upon occasion as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Big hand.
Thank you. And thank you very much.